I was asked yesterday to do a little lecture on the spirituality of COVID, and that's a very, very hot topic on multiple levels. So first and foremost, you have to understand that everything that occurs, as the Baal Shem Tov says, is a message from God. The more, I would say, the greater the event is, the greater the message is. So what exactly is the message of COVID? I believe that COVID is a precursor to the coming of the Mashiach, and the reason for this is manifold. The first reason is that when the Jews left Egypt, and we know that as we leave Egypt, so I will show you wonders. In other words, the going out of Egypt, the process of the exodus of Egypt, is very similar to the process of the current exodus from our current exile into the spiritual redemption of the Messianic era, which will occur very soon. Now, obviously, real exodus is not about slavery to freedom. It's about physical slavery to spiritual freedom. And once you understand that premise, you fully understand what COVID is. There's a very important concept called Hamtokas Hadinim. Now, in very, very simple language, even though you can speak about Hamtokas Hadinim literally for 1,000 years, it's such a great deep concept. But in simple language, what makes a person go haywire is their ego. Children basically are very normal. But as an individual grows, and if they basically develop an ego, then they basically become abnormal. And it's very difficult to talk to somebody who has a big ego because they're just nuts. They think that they are God and they basically want to get their way. Basically, what happens when we develop a high ego is we sort of regress. Just like the 2-year-old will throw a tantrum because he can't handle not getting his way. The same thing as a person that develops a big ego can't handle not being right. You know anyone that can't handle not being right? So the story with ego is that it's a very big problem. Now, ego also is necessary. It's like fire. Without fire, the world wouldn't exist. Without fire, your car wouldn't drive. But it has to be controlled. And it's all about balancing that ego. And so when we have a big ego, what ends up happening is we literally create fires, we create wars. Why? Because suddenly it's not fair that you have something more than I have. And I'm going to give you a very simple example where we see this very, very, very clearly. For example, the Arabs, God forbid, wanted to kill the Jews. They created basically, I think, 5 wars. Thank God they were never successful. But, and this is very, very important, but recently, we just saw this past year, 4 Arab countries create peace with Israel just for the sake of peace. In other words, we're going to just trade with you, it will be normal. So what caused the people that previously were totally supportive? There was actually a Jewish boy because his mother or his grandmother actually married an Arab, I think it was a Jordanian, a soldier. Unfortunately, some Jewish girls are stupid. But anyway, so she married this guy and they basically went to Kuwait. And he said the way they used to do math in school was they were like, if you killed 4 Jews and there were 2 Jews left, how many would be left? Or if you killed 4, yeah, minus 2. So, I mean, sick stuff. So that's how in fact, there's a book written by Oxford professor, What is an Arab? And basically it boils down to 2 things. Someone who speaks Arabic and hates Israel. So that's like a defining characteristic. And suddenly they're making peace. Why? Because where does hate come from? It comes from jealousy. Where does jealousy come from? It comes from arrogance. In other words, if you have 2 children, and they have very interesting studies, this works with monkeys also, you have 2 little kids, and you put them together. They're at the supper table, and you give one, a popcorn, and the other one you give, spinach. So the guy that has spinach will go crazy. It's not fair. Now, let's say you're at the table, and you have a guest, and you give the guest popcorn. The little kids won't go crazy. Why? Because they understand the guy's a guest. I'm not a guest. I can't compare myself. In fact, they do this with monkeys. If you give a little monkey a cucumber, and another little monkey candy, the one that gets the cucumber will go ballistic. If you gave them both cucumbers, they're both okay. But suddenly it's not fair. Now, if the owner is eating a candy, he won't mind. He knows he's not an owner. So this is the irony. In fact, when it says in the Bible, don't be jealous. So how do you say don't be jealous? The answer is whatever someone else has, you can never have it. That was God's gift to them. For example, a person won't be jealous of a princess. That's why it says in the Torah, in the Ten Commandments, whatever your friend has. Why? Because if your friend has it, then you may be jealous. You think, he's not better than me. Why should he have it? But let's say, would you be jealous of a prince that marries a princess? No, even though she may be very beautiful. But you're not a prince. You're not entitled to it. So jealousy is from ego, and it comes from entitlement. And therefore, when the Arabs, basically this Arab winter, which basically created a tremendous, as I saw from an Arab writer, she went right through the Arab world. Basically, there's a tremendous humiliation that they have. They're like, what the hell is wrong with us? The whole world knows how to get along with each other, but except for us, we're busy killing each other. And so this created a humiliation. And in that humiliation, you have now a new perception of reality. And the same thing on a different level happened with COVID. With COVID, suddenly we went from we thought we were high and mighty, suddenly a little virus, we don't know how to handle it. The economies of the world took a massive hit. You can't, even if you have your own private jet, you can't fly anywhere. So the point is, this was a very, very great humbling. And in that humbling, we become much more kind. And this is the ultimate preparation for the redemption. Just as the Jews before they left Egypt, the Rebbe says an amazing thing. Why did God make this concept that they had to collect straw? So the answer is that because before they were going to get the new Torah, and soon we're going to get the new Torah of Mashiach, before they were going to get that, they had to be humble. They had to be because God only rests in what's called a ba'asar shlim, a complete home. A home where there's strife. God is perfect. He doesn't want to be there. He wants to be in a place of humility, place of love, and therefore the world has come to this location. So now what's really important is we have to realize that God is very serious. He's not playing games here. This world is a spiritual, I don't know if I should call it battleground, but it's a spiritual advancement center. That's what it is. We're here to spiritually advance. The Baal Shem Tov calls a Jew, but perhaps anybody that's spiritual seeker, a spiritual warrior. That is what you're doing on this planet. So forget about physicality. That doesn't mean you shouldn't have money. You should have lots of money so you can give charity. But that's not the aim of life. People are this secular stupidity of making a career life. Career is not life. Career is a means to an end. So you have to know what the end is before you know what the means are.